This
discriminated
conference
against.
will
I'm going to
now be
start.
recorded.
You always feel discriminated against, Jake. I'm starting with you.
I don't have anything, Rick. Len.
Okay, Peter Kafka.
Yes, I've got something to consider.
Okay, Peter. And Alan with an EN. So that's
ALAN, right. Yeah, I can use a little bit of time tonight to update on some things and get some opinions.
Oh, okay. Wait a minute now. Apparently we have two Allens with an EN. Who just spoke? What's your last name?
Moskowitz.
Oh yeah, Moskowitz.
ALA.
Gotcha.
He's an AN.
Oh, I spelled it wrong. I'm sorry. I spelled it ALLEN. It's ALAN.
Right.
My apologies.
Okay, and my favorite prostate cancer blogger, Alan, who's I'm having a senior moment. I can't think of your last name.
Adele.
Adele, of course. Are you here to comment and help us out, or you have something you want to say too? I think
Yeah,
your disease is stable. You don't need to update anybody, right?
just the kibitz.
Kibitz, got it. Okay. Let's go to Carl Foreman.
Hi. Yes, I finally have my results of my Aximum PET scan, which I'd like to discuss.
You got it, brother. David Heinen.
You thinking Chin? I don't know. I didn't hear Heinen mentioned, but.
Sorry?
CHIN, Is that the one you're looking at?
What I'm looking at is HEINEN.
Yeah, that's me.
I think it's me.
No. It's someone else.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead, David.
I'll just listen to chime in if I have anything relevant to add.
Very good. Now we have David Muslin.
Hi, Len. Just want to bring you up to date on blood test results after 7 weeks being on Lupron. Won't take very long.
All right, David. Dennis Correa.
Nothing for me, Len. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Dennis. Jay Mills.
Nothing for me.
All right, sir. Jerry Pelfrey. You're muted, by the way, Jerry. Oh. Jerry, I'm getting a no audio indication from you. I guess we'll try and get back to you. Joel Blanchette. You're muted also.
Yes, about a minute, Len. Just a quick update.
You got it, Joel. Okay. Larry Fish.
Hi, Len and everybody. Nothing from me tonight, thank you.
Okay, Larry. Les Shelderup.
Nothing tonight, Len. Thanks.
Thank you. Paul Freda. Welcome back, Paul. Paul, you're muted. We'll have to come back to Paul. Peter Monaco.
Nothing from me tonight, Len. Thank you.
Okay, Peter. Rich Jackson, all quiet on the Eastern Front?
All quiet on the Eastern Front.
All right. Richard Foodie, I'm sure you have an update for us.
I do.
Very good, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have to get off at a certain time? Should we start with you? I'm not ready yet, but.
Well, I'm a little tired, so but I don't want
to. Yeah, we'll push you to the top.
Okay.
All right. Oh, Paul Freda says he's unable to unmute, but he's got nothing for tonight. Okay, Paul, got you. Russ Smith, did we cover you yet?
I'll just have a little bit to add. It'll be probably 2 minutes.
Okay. Sylvester.
Len, can you hear me now?
Yeah, who's that, Paul?
Len? Jerry Pelfrey.
Oh, yes, I hear you, Jerry.
Okay. Nothing for me.
Okay, good. Sylvester.
No, thank you.
Okay. And David Chinchin.
Yeah, just a quick one from me. I connected, this is the first group I've ever connected with, and it was because of a Cancer Tutor article that one of your people responded to with your website. The guy that was asking for help was dealing with the psychological sort of side effects of ADT, which I've been living with for 6 years, and that was the reason I connected. I'm not sure the protocol, but if there's anything in that discussion that needs to be had, then I've got some experience that might help.
Okay, good to know. Thank you. Jim Ward.
Hey there. I don't have a question. I just kind of have an anecdote to share. So I happily will wait till the back end if there's time, and if not, I can share it another time.
Okay, Jim, thank you. Welcome, Rick. I see your lips moving, but I don't hear anything.
Okay, I didn't say anything.
You're just mumbling to yourself.
I'm mumbling to myself, yes.
So we've got 25 folks on the call, Rick, and 2, 4, 6, about 9 or 10 people who would like a little floor time. So good luck managing that.
I was going to leave it with you.
Oh, no, you don't.
Oh, Len.
Well,
We're going to great job, Len.
I see two more guys who've joined since you started. A Chris Hatton and a Jess something.
Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi there. What's your name?
My name is Jess.
Jess. Do you need time tonight to talk?
This is my first time joining, so I think I'll probably just mostly listen tonight.
Oh, well, if you're a first timer, we're assuming you're a caregiver, or you could be in the wrong need. That's been happening a lot.
No, I'm a caregiver, my husband.
Well, that's okay, because we had a lady for ovarian cancer who sat through half of an active surveillance prostate cancer meeting. But
oh gosh, well, she probably got educated.
But typically what we do, Jess, is we ask the new people if they would like to just tell us a little bit about themselves.
Okay.
But you don't have to do that. And what I need to know right now is how many new people we have. Who else has never been on the call before?
Well, David Chinchin, I haven't.
Ah, hello. Sorry, what was your first name, Mr. Simpson?
David.
Chinchin, C-H-I-N-C-H-E-N.
Chinchin, okay. Got you. From Australia, or are you from?
I am.
Yes, I can hear. That's good.
Way down the other side, hanging upside down by my toes on the other side of the world.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. No, as it so happens, you're probably the right side up. The way I feel, all of us have got our feet up in the air and we're hanging upside down. Okay, anyone else other than Jess and David who haven't been on the call before?
No ribs.
Chris Hatton just joined us also. I don't think we touched base with him.
Yeah, I didn't. Chris Hatton. Chris, did you want to speak tonight?
I think Chris Hatton, that name is familiar. Chris, have you been with us before? Well,
Mic is off. His mic is off.
Okay, I see. Yeah, you need to set your mic on. Well, we'll come back to Chris Hatton. But right now, other than Jess and David Chinchin, is there anyone else who has never been in the group before? Okay. So, David, I'm going to pick on you only because it gives Jess a little time to get herself sorted and see if she wants to speak, and because you're from the furthest away. And usually what we do is ask you to tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you to this group, how you heard about us. I suspect, I think I probably know how you heard about us. And tell us how we can help you. We have a lot of knowledge in the group. And
Rick, I need to interrupt for a moment just to make sure you're aware. Richard Foodie's on the call, and he said he was feeling tired. I kind of promised him a first spot.
Okay.
And then
all right.
we can go to David Chin Chin.
Okay. Okay, that's fine then. So, you sure you don't want to run the call? I'm happy for you to do it.
I'll keep my mouth shut the rest of the meeting.
No, you don't have to. I'm really happy for you to do it. I can gather myself and go to talk to Foodie, and then we'll get David Chin, and then we'll huddle and see where we go from there.
That sounds good.
Okay.
All right then, Richard Foodie, go right ahead, please.
Well, it's great to see such a strong turnout. It's wonderful, and with so many people, so many conversations that need to take place, I'll be as brief as I can. My cancer had transformed to neuroendocrine. In December, it spread to my liver, and they started me on immunotherapy in January. About 2 weeks later, my thyroid gland with nivolumab, my thyroid gland went out of control. So for about 4 weeks, it was really difficult. It's very difficult to live and to move, to get things done. Thank goodness I had a job, and that sort of forced me to get up out of bed and go to work and be uncomfortable at work as opposed to laying home in bed all day. And so this past Friday, I had my 6th treatment. But about 2 weeks ago, my oncologist at Memorial Sloan Kettering was concerned about measures in my blood. She's been monitoring CEA and chromogranin. And when I started the immunotherapy in January, they were pretty much stable. They were within their normal range. And just recently, as of a few weeks ago, they started to climb. And I had blood work done last week, but she called before seeing the results, and she asked to arrange a conference call with myself and Len for this week, which we're going to do on Thursday. And she's concerned about the numbers that she's seeing is not what they wanted to see with the immunotherapy. So I spoke to the nurse today, and I haven't looked at the lab report because I have a feeling of what it's going to look like. But the nurse I spoke to today said that the numbers are up again. So with everything else that's going on, it's hard, it's tiring, it's depressing, and but I really look forward to Len helping me and being with me on the call on Thursday, and that's it. We'll see what happens, I don't know what else to say, but that's my thyroid gland started to calm down, and as a result of the nivolumab, I'm now hypothyroid, so I can start thyroid medication tomorrow. So that'll help get my energy up. So it's so that's it. So anyhow, that's it. As a quick recap.
Right. Thank you, Richard. What time is our conference on Thursday?
I think it's 4 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
I was going to send you an email, but I haven't done that yet.
No problem.
But they're flexible.
Okay, 4 is good for me, so it's up to you. Anyone have any questions for Richard Richard Foodie?
Yeah, I do. Well, the first thing is, Len, can you just explain to the people on the call what, because they will not be familiar with the CEA and the chromogranin. One of them is a neuroendocrine measure.
Yeah,
And
chromogranin A is a neuroendocrine biomarker. And CEA, carcinoembryonic antigen, is not specific for prostate cancer or neuroendocrine cancer or any cancer. It can be elevated in a number of different cancers, and even in patients, let's say if you have two patients with colon cancer, one may have elevated CEA and the other one might not. So it's a very non-specific biomarker. I'm not sure why she's using that. You know anything about this, Alan, Adele?
No, but am I correct in assuming that the diagnosis of neuroendocrine was based on a tissue biopsy and not just elevated chromogranin?
No, it was tissue biopsy.
yeah, tissue biopsy time back, Alan.
What?
It was a tissue biopsy when they took it from your liver, didn't they, Richard? Quite some
Right.
time ago.
Yeah.
December.
Yeah,
January.
December. And the last numbers that you shared with Len and I, your CEA was up to 79.8 and the chromogranin was 116.
Yes.
Do you have anything after that other than what you don't know that they just took?
Those are the numbers I need to look at, and I decided, just for my own peace of mind, I'm going to look at them on Wednesday. I don't want to look at them today or tomorrow, so I'll look at them on Wednesday and I'll send them to you and Len on Wednesday.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. I was just let's silence Peter here. I was just wanted to check that the information we had that we were working off was still the same information that you had, or if you'd had another test between what we knew.
No, that's it.
I mean, the question, Len, and anybody on the call, that we'd like to dig around a little bit. So maybe Len's got something to speak about with Dr. Rathkopf, is if the nivolumab is not working, is there anything else that we should be raising that that might work other than what she's got up her sleeve in terms of trials and things like that? Alan, is there anything you can think of post nivolumab?
There are, hold on, I'm pulling up something. I'm looking at the other clinical trials. There are a number of them for checkpoint blockade, but I don't know. I sort of doubt that if nivolumab isn't working, my guess is none of the others will work. There is a BITE clinical trial with Amgen 757 because it targets DLL3. And there's a CAR T therapy with Amgen 119 that also targets DLL3. DLL3 is a protein that's highly expressed in neuroendocrine cancers. Those are a couple of things to ask about. The other thing that I'm always curious about is whether it expresses somatostatin. Usually, if it's prostate neuroendocrine, it does not. But on the off chance that it does, there are some therapies that can be keyed to it. So somatostatin is also a protein on the cancer cell surface, but it's usually expressed in GI cancers that are neuroendocrine and not prostate cancer that's neuroendocrine. Just something to look at, I guess.
Okay, thanks, Alan. I'll raise those biomarker issues with Dana Rathkop.
And did you catch the names of those two Amgen drugs in the CAR-T trial, Len?
I had DLO3 Amgen and the CAR-T. Was there another Amgen?
Yeah, the two Amgen studies were they're both targeted at DLL3, which is a neuroendocrine biomarker, just like chromogranin or synaptophysin or several others. But Amgen has something called Amgen 757, which is a BiTE engager that I know we've talked about before. And they also have Amgen 119, which is a CAR-T therapy. Len, I'll post this to you if I can figure out how.
You mean the chat box?
Yeah, wait.
Yeah, that reminds me, Jake or Rick. I don't know why, but somehow I've gone to full screen and all my controls are missing, like the chat box and the people, and I can't escape using escape key. I can't escape the full screen. I wonder if I need to. Oh, I see. I can't see the chat option, but I just saw Alan's link that he put there, and now it disappeared. Anyway, any help from Rick or Jake on? Do I need to restart?
So yes, in the top right-hand corner where the little X is, just make sure that that's clicked, and that can take you out of full screen. Right next to the X, do you see that?
Yeah, I clicked on that before, but it minimizes it to the point where I can't see anything at all.
Do you see at the very top, Len, where it says view with an up and down arrow?
No, it's cut off. You know what? I don't want to take up people's time. I'm just going to drop out and rejoin. Okay.
All right.
So we're back to you, Rick, and we can. I guess we can start with David Chin Chin while I'm gone. Chin Chin.
Yeah, before you leave, you have all the notes, so you'll get the notes. Alan's going to put them in the chat window, and then you'll get those notes, and we'll go from there. I just want to make sure we have all the information in hand for Richard.
Yeah, I have those notes.
Okay, great, super.
I assume when I come back in, the chat box will be visible.
Oh no, it won't.
Oh no?
No. Hold on a minute, and I will No, I haven't seen. Well, Alan, you haven't put it in the chat box yet, have you?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, he did.
But I can resend it easily.
So you only sent it to Len. That's fine.
I sent it to Len and to Richard.
Okay. So if you can send it to Len, won't see it when he comes back in again. You'll have to send it to him again.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you. Thank you. You can cut and paste it.
Yeah, got it.
Sorry
All right,
about it.
guys. See you later.
Sorry about
Thank you very much, Len, Alan, Rick. Appreciate it very, very much.
Yeah.
Okay, Richard. Have a good night.
Let me just check. Is there anybody else who is on the call who would like to say anything to Richard? Talk to Richard at all before we move on? Richard, I'm really pleased that that at least we know what the issues are around your thyroid, and you can start taking some thyroid medication. That's going to be really helpful to you. And I hope that you know, these CAR T trials sound interesting. I think, I'm not certain, but I think there may be a CAR T trial up at New York Presbyterian. I've got a feeling that that Charles Drake is running a CAR T trial. So I'll mention that to Len as well, but I'm not certain, but I seem to think that Len's back.
I'm back and I have my controls back.
Okay, all right. So Len, what I just said was that I think there's a CAR T trial up at New York Presbyterian, or something very similar to a CAR T trial, because Drake was discussing it with Jerry Deans.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We will move on. Feel good, Richard, and for goodness sake, stay safe. You know, are you managing with your groceries and all of that good stuff? Oh, we may have lost him.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure. So David Chin-Chen, tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you to the call.
Well, a couple of days ago, there's a blog that pops up, Cancer Tutor.
I have.
I think, I'm not sure what's going on there, David. I think it might be Richard.
Sounded like Richard.
Yeah. Richard,
You want me to keep going?
Hold on one second. Richard, was there anything else you wanted to say? No, I don't know what happened there. Yes, please keep going.
Okay.
You probably saw the note I posted on your Jim blog.
Are you RD, are you?
Yes.
Okay, that puts it in context. When I was on that blog, I think you were the only response, and you'd listed the contact to ANCAN.
No, my computer is a little bit frozen after I clicked on that.
Sorry?
I'm not
That's Richard Foodie again.
Yeah,
Richard, did you hang up from our call?
Just silence. Guys, one of you guys, can you just silence Richard? Just there you go. Sorry, David Chin-Chen. Keep going.
No problem. Okay, so I read RD's response, and at that point it was the only response, and the psychological sort of side effects of ADT was something that I'd dealt with for a number of years, and I think the guy whose name was Terry was asking for some assistance. This is the first time I've ever connected with any group, so I had no idea what the protocol was or what happened. So I was just calling in case someone wanted to talk about that, but it seems to be a lot lower down the level of concern than a lot of other things that you're dealing with. But that was the only reason I sort of followed up, was just to see what the current thinking is. Since then, I've seen there are a lot more responses to the original post, and it seems to have covered the subject pretty well. So it's probably not something that needs a lot of attention. I'd be interested in hearing what you other guys are talking about in a language and numbers that I've never heard of.
Well, don't get snowed by the neuroendocrine discussion because it's pretty rare, and we're very fortunate to have some really good minds on this call tonight, and so we're really digging around to see what we can do for Mr. Foodie. We've supported Richard since 2013, and the interesting aspect of his case is that he got 4.5 years out of enzalutamide, and there has been observations that when men who have been on enzalutamide fail after a long stretch of time, the disease does move fairly rapidly to a small cell neuroendocrine-like disease, and that's exactly what happened to Richard. We've seen it happen to a couple of other people too. Tell us a little bit about your history.
Oh, very briefly, diagnosed in 2012, Gleason of 9.5, radical, came back 6 months later, so we had ADT, Zoladex, then some radiation, stayed on Zoladex, had all the mood swing things that the Terry guy was talking about, some of them just so black it was spooky. Managed to be able to work myself through it, and the biggest thing I think I've found is exercise. I do it probably an hour a day, and it's amazing how if I don't do it, the black dog starts wandering around, and if I do it, he's gone away. So I want to reinforce some of the points that were made in some of those comments, but I'm doing okay. I mean, I've got nothing to really report. I'm still on Zoladex. I had 6 months off it, which were the best 6 months of my life. You don't realize what you're missing until you get it back. And I had energy, I had stamina, I swim 4 times a week. So to be able to swim fast was wonderful again. But I think I'm stuck on Zoladex and other things like it, Koshadex, or whatever it is, forever. But the mood thing is probably my biggest issue that I'm dealing with. And I'm just interested in the comments that were on those posts as to what might be there from a medical support. I don't take anything for it, just purely self-treatment. So that was my interest. I'll obviously get further down the track where I'll have bigger issues to deal with. I've been at it now for 8 years, so we've got, I was given 5 years back then. They said, look, that was the drop dead date, so I'm past my use by date, but happily continuing on.
So your surgery was back in 2012, and you have, and you've been pretty much on androgen deprivation therapy the whole time since then. We have a number of guys that might want to talk to you because we've got several guys on this call who have done and had some success with intermittent hormone therapy, and and you know, it sounds like you've only tried that one time. What's your PSA history been like?
Oh, I can't quote it, but it's floated around, you know, sort of. Oh, it's been pretty much under 1. Then then when we came off it, it went up over 1. So that's when they put me back on it again. It came under 1. Then it was, my last 4 have been 0.77. Then it went to 1.5. So we stuck 2 weeks of radiation in there. It came down to 0.86. And then my last test or 2 or 3 weeks ago was 0.55. So that was encouraging. But you know, I don't know what the next one will be. I mean, you live for your next set of numbers, really. But I'm still down there, sort of. You know, when it spikes, they want to stick me back on it. But I've not been off it again. I'd love to get off it. It's just such a wonderful feeling to have all of your strength and your stamina and everything's right. I mean, you just feel so good.
How old are you, David?
72.
72. So Len or Peter, who wants to go first to talk a little bit about IHT and share your experiences with David? How about you, Peter? Because you had an RP and you had an RP and so you're a little bit closer.
Yeah, I don't know. There's 25 of us on the call. I don't know if I want to take a lot of time. I'll email you if you give me your email, David, and give you my story. I've been on and off 3 times for the last 5 years. I'm also a Gleason 9, dealing with this for 6 years, and I've done a couple of PSMA scans as mine creeps up. Do you have an email that I can quickly get? And I'll talk to you offline.
Do you want my email now? I can give it to you over the phone.
Sure.
Yeah, David, D-A-V-I-D, at Spearhead, SPEARHEAD, .net, net.au.
Peter, I'm happy for you to take a couple of, because I think it's.
Well, yeah, but I've got something else that's more prevalent that I want to talk about and question about. I'd be glad to talk to David about this because I've talked about it before on the call.
Right, but let me run the call. The reason I want to do it is because there's a lot of guys on this call who are very interested in intermittent hormone therapy. Some of them may not have heard, some may. And we've got a guy who's a new guy who hasn't had much intermittent hormone therapy, but may be a good candidate. And we'll give you time to speak.
Okay.
So David, for you, I'm interested in you speaking for David Chin-Chen. If you don't, we'll go to Len.
Okay,
I'm happy.
It's a wonderful feeling when you're off of it. I've been on and off 3 times. My testosterone came back in 3 or 4 months each time. I was off almost a year and a half once. And it does great for your, for all kinds of mood and physical and everything else. But, like you got to monitor really closely. I do PSA and testosterone tests every month. And as soon as I saw a trend going up, my doc and I got me into, I've done 2 PSMA scans. I don't know if they're doing that in Australia. Probably they are.
Yeah, I've had those. Yep.
Yeah, that's the trick is, really pinpointing early where the rise is, whether you can treat it before it gets out of hand. And because you might need to do other therapy than just hormone therapy. And I've done that. And now I'm doing chemo as a result of that. You just got to watch it really careful.
Okay. Yeah, don't take up too much time on me because I think you guys have got a lot more to deal with than my issues. And I'm happy to follow up with those emails as they come through.
Trust me, I know how to run the call. I know how much time we've got. We do this every week. And we'll move through this, but I think it's an important subject. Len, is there anything you want to add? I mean, what about how would you go about raising the issue of intermittent hormone therapy with your doctor? I'm just trying to put myself in David's shoes here.
If I understood David correctly, he's been on intermittent at least once. Is that correct, David?
Yeah, at my insistence, not the doctor's, I said, look, I'm sick of this. I don't want any more of this. I want to try it without it, just to see if I could handle it through my own sort of activities and what I was eating and exercising and everything else I was doing. And she said, okay. We did talk about intermittent as opposed to continuous, and she said the results were mixed. She didn't see any particular advantages on intermittent. Then when the PSA went up again, not by a lot, but it was up by from maybe 0.7 to maybe 1.1. That's whenever it gets to 1, that's when she sort of tries to step in and take action and push me back onto Zoladex. So I only had the one experience, but I'd love to have it again.
So I have 2 questions. One is, I believe you said your Gleason score was 9.5. I've never heard anyone express a Gleason score with a half fraction. Can you elaborate on that?
One was 5 and one was 4.5. That's what I remember from the documentation. So there must be 2 measures. I mean, there's one was 5 and one was 4.5. They add them together and got 9.5. But his words were, "This is about as ugly a cancer as we ever see." So that looked really promising back in 2012.
And at that time, when you had the prostatectomy, were there any positive margins or any spread outside the capsule?
He believed that he'd got it all, the surgeon, and obviously they say that, but they don't always get it. So it was 6 months later, my PSA was next to nothing, which suggested, okay, he has done his job. And then the next one after that, I think it was 0.02, but there was obviously indications that there was a few cells that hadn't been caught, and it was starting to reactivate or whatever it does. So it was 12 months after surgery that we went on to the next, onto the androgen deprivation, etc.
And you've never been on any hormone therapy except Zoladex?
I don't know what Costudex is, but
oh
you
yeah,
started
yeah.
me on Costudex.
Okay.
I don't even know what that is.
I mean, I'm just amazed that a Gleason 9 or 9 plus could go 8 years on just a first line hormone drug plus Casodex without, and you're still hormone sensitive apparently. I mean, it's amazing.
Well,
I didn't think
the
that was
Costudex
possible.
only started about 3 months ago, so she added that in about 3 months ago.
May I ask, are you detectably metastatic? Have they found any metastases anywhere?
Well, I mean, when we had the PET scan, there was the first time we had one. There was a spot, a little spot. I couldn't tell you where it was, in the back of my stomach somewhere, in a lymph gland or somewhere there. And then we had a second one, maybe 6, maybe 12 months later, and there was a spot somewhere else. I don't know where, but it's still in my. It's not in my bones or anything like that. And I don't know how big it is, but there is. You can see it on the screen when she puts it up. There's a red spot there, red area. So there's obviously some activity. But I said, can you do anything with that? Can you go in and chop it out or whatever? And the answer was no to that. So she said, look, at some stage, probably later this year, because she's a radiation oncology, she said, look, I'll have to move you on to the next level. And I don't know what that is, but it's obviously probably a chemo level, I suppose. But I've just really stuck. I mean, I did a lot of research when I got this and tried everything and anything, and then sort of simplified it down to sort of nutrition and exercise and mindfulness, which is pretty commonly prescribed, but did it in a fairly intense way. And I mean, I'm still physically fit. I swim 4 times a week. I work out for an hour a day. Apart from the mood swings, I mean, I wouldn't know, and that loss of muscle strength, I wouldn't know that I'm any different to what I was 20 years ago.
So I want to make just a couple of quick comments here. The first is you really could do yourself a big favor if you switched your quarterback, your fly half, to a genitourinary medical oncologist at this point. I mean, the radiation oncologist obviously hasn't been doing a bad job, because you've been, you're still castrate sensitive, but I think the discussion of longer periods off, which probably would help you, are going to fall on much more receptive ears if you're talking to a genitourinary medical oncologist. And
could you just say that slowly for me? The description of that practitioner.
Yes. Genito, GenitoUrinary, genitourinary medical oncologist. Right. That's a medical oncologist who is going to be familiar with all the different drugs that are available for prostate cancer, and in a bit better position to make the calls. What part of Australia are you in?
I'm in Brisbane. It's a capital city, so there'll be plenty of that sort of person around, I would imagine.
Ken Anderson, I mean, you know a little bit about the Australian treatments. I mean, where are the really good GU medoncs? Isn't that Peter McCallum or whatever it is?
Melbourne.
That's in Melbourne, though. He's in Brisbane. He's not close.
Okay.
I don't know. You might talk to Ben Tran at Peter McCallum and ask him in your market who would be good. He's the guy that does all the trials at Peter McCallum. So we might try reaching out to him and ask who he would recommend in Brisbane.
But
who would I contact? Peter McCallum.
His name is Ben Tran, Bentran. You know.
Infinelli, Ben Tran.
Yeah, Ben Tran. Yep.
Yep. And if I Google him, I'd find him.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Peter, you wanted to say something?
Thank you for that.
I bet you Jim Marshall. I bet you Jim Marshall could give him a list too.
Yeah, I'm sure he could as well.
Jim.
Oh, the Jim guy. Yeah, I get their blog, but I've not engaged with the forum as such. So I need to start doing more of that.
Yeah,
He's pretty up to speed.
Post on the forum and ask them who they would recommend as a G. The abbreviation is a G as in George, U as an umbrella, Medonc. GU Medonc. Ask them who they would recommend as a GU Medonc. Yeah. And I think
okay.
Best advice that we can give you here, and hopefully you'll keep coming back and you can bounce ideas, is that just a quick note on the emotional issues, and they are tough, and we understand them. And hopefully you'll join us on our Speaking Freely call, which is the same time on the third Thursday of the month. I don't know what date that is right now. It'll be the 16th of April. But the exercise is great, but I am a firm believer that medication is important to supplement the exercise when you're suffering from depression or anxiety as a result of hormone therapy. Because it's not only socially driven, it really is physiologically driven. And the medications can help supplement what you're not making yourself. And again, you can talk about that with a GU Medonc, you can talk about it with your GP, but it could really change your life. I mean, nobody should have to live with the sort of depression that hormone therapy can often bring to men.
Good point. I appreciate that.
And let me just say, and I said it in the blog, you know, I've lived with depression most of my life, and I managed it with exercise for years and years and years, and I still manage it with exercise. But I also take an antidepressant, and and I had to change the dose of the antidepressant when I went on hormone therapy, David. So I would really encourage you to do that. And anybody else want to say anything about emotions and handling your emotions?
Yeah.
David,
May I please? I'm new. I'm Dave. I'm 63 from Cleveland, Ohio. Had an RP in 2018. 2 years ago today, I had it.
Okay.
And then in
come,
January.
Dave, we will come to you. I promise.
Oh, okay. My apologies.
Okay, we will come to you, but I just really want to focus on this. I really want to focus on this emotional issue.
Okay. Well, that's what I was going to chime in on, but okay.
So let's just talk about the emotional issue, and then we'll get back to your details momentarily.
Okay, fine.
Go ahead.
Well, I just have one thing. Where did you come up? Where'd you find the term "the big black dog"? Because I use it all the time, and I started using it about a year ago. And I heard you mention it in the very beginning.
Well, I think it's quite common. It's certainly quite common here. The black dog is the
I know
the thing that stalks us. I think it's widespread.
Okay.
Chill, Ken. The term originally comes from Winston Churchill.
I'll be danged. I didn't even know that.
David Muslin, you just faced this. Talk to David a little bit about how you dealt with it.
So interesting. When I first got on ADT 7 weeks ago, I was upside down and had a panic attack, in which I never had before in my life. But I've been able to maintain it without any kind of meds. I have my meds ready to go if I need them. But I've been exercising every day. I run, I bike, I do whatever, and then it seems to be okay. And I haven't had any more depression. bouts with depression, but I struggle a lot with hot flashes, especially at nighttime. That's my biggest struggle at the moment.
Okay, so we can definitely address that. And the new David that's going to tell us about yourself momentarily.
Yes.
What do you have to say about emotions?
Well, I started on ADT back in January, and about the first month was quite rough. And I would go from being just perfectly fine, and then 10 minutes later, I'd be pretty much just, a sobbing mess. And then I'd be Then 10 minutes later, I'd be screaming at somebody, but I don't know. Just all of a sudden, it evened out, and I feel rather good. So, but the women at work love me because I actually have hot flashes, so I understand what they're going through, and I know and they've seen me go through the mood swings too, which have evened out. I'm pretty much on an even keel now, but the women love me because they said, educate the men that this is real, So I don't have that much to say because it's gone. It has gone rather well for me. But the mood swings and everything are real. They do happen, and very thankfully, they've evened out for me. So.
Okay.
Are you on Casodex as well?
I was for a while, and then I'm on Lupron and Zytiga.
Okay, thank you.
But I think the Casodex is just something they start you off on, but then they take you off it after a short while. That's my understanding, at least.
Right. So we'll return to you momentarily, but I think David Chinchen, you got a pretty good feel of some things that are going on here. There's, as you see, lots of information, and please keep coming back to us.
I'd be pleased to, and thank you for the information I've picked up already.
Yeah, and anybody who, if this is your first time, please be sure to either email us your email address or go to our website and sign up so that we can send you reminders. We run this meeting every week. You can put your email address in the chat window too, and we'll pick it up. Okay, so now I'm going to go to Jess, and then go to David, and then we'll get into the questions. Jess, we welcome you as a caregiver. And we love to have caregivers on this call, and we haven't had any for a while, but some of the best people that we've ever worked with are caregivers, and a couple of them are moderators for the caregivers call. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your partner and what's going on?
Sure. My husband is 50. He was diagnosed in August, surgery on December 10th, first 3-month PSA 1.44. We were afraid it was a lab error, so he went back in 5 days later. It was up to 1.51. He had multiple positive margins greater than 6 millimeters. He's a Gleason 4+3, tertiary 5 at all the positive margins. Aggressive. He's young. So now we are going to, and he had extraprostatic extension in one area seen on biopsy and MRI previous to surgery. We were expecting, I guess, maybe one positive margin, but he had several. They said he's probably already had prostate cancer for between 5 and 10 years. And that it just probably got aggressive in the last few years. His PSA was 16.12 upon diagnosis, positive DRE. By the time he had surgery, 3 months later, it was 20. So this is where we're at. We're going to go see Dr. Kwan at Mayo. We were supposed to be going in a couple weeks. They canceled it. He's still going to talk to us over the phone and decide if my husband can wait till the corona is over or if he needs to be moving now. That's why he wanted him to have the PSA tomorrow, a month after the first post-op one, so that when we talk in a couple of weeks, he has a more current PSA. So I'm trying to be prepared for whatever could happen, whatever. I don't want to all of a sudden be in a situation where it's, I guess, bad, worse than what we're thinking, or it gets bad and then you have to try to prepare. I'm trying to prepare now, I guess, for the worst outcomes and what is to probably come for him. So
Where are you
what treatment is he on now?
nothing. He's only had surgery.
And
where are you located?
Hold on a minute, Alan, and I'll give you the floor. Where are you located?
We're in Wisconsin.
You're in Wisconsin. How close are you to Madison?
That's where he had surgery with Dr. Gerard.
And is there a reason why you didn't want to go back to one of the GU medical oncologists at Wisconsin?
We had not met with medical oncology yet. We had met with radiation oncology prior to surgery, and we weren't happy at all with the radiation oncologist that we met with. So if he were to have radiation, we would do that up here near where we live in the Fox Valley with Dr. Ray.
Right. Well, I mean, well, here's one of my concerns is that he's not already on Lupron. When did he have the PARP-I? When did he have the radical prostatectomy?
On December 10th.
December 10th. Oh, that's okay. I mean, there are a couple of really good guys at medical oncologists if you could, Peter, could you please, thank you. There are a couple of really good medical oncologists at in Madison at Carbone. I mean, I just have to tell you frankly, and I've gotten into trouble over this recently, we are not huge fans of Quan, although we can direct you to people who have had great success with Quan. And we have at least one man on this call right now who has seen Quan for a long time. Our issue with Quan, and I'll let you talk to Les momentarily, our issue with Quan is that he's a surgeon, he's not a medical oncologist. And we feel quite strongly that a GU medical oncologist should be running your husband's care. Let me let Alan pursue that. Alan, do you want to? You wanted to come in?
I was just going past the same thing you did. Where you located? Carbone is excellent. I would have no qualms about being treated there. But although I might take a slightly different stance from you, Rick, in that at this point, radiation oncologist is probably the best person for a lead person, because your next step is obviously radiation. So a medical oncologist doesn't have any specific knowledge of radiation. That's what a radiation oncologist specializes in. And Carbone has an excellent one. If you give me a minute, I can probably come up with his name. Who did you speak to there, and what was your problem with him or her?
So everything went pretty good, I guess, up until our post-op 10 days after surgery when he went over the pathology. he minimized the pathology report very, very much so, to the point where if I wouldn't have already have done a shit ton of research in 3 months, I would have just taken what he said and that would have just been it. So when we went back for the 3 months, I asked him how come he minimized the pathology, because 3 months later after the post-op, he was making it like this actually is a huge deal. But that was only because my husband's PSA was up. So I didn't feel like him minimizing it 10 days later versus he didn't give us the same, he didn't communicate the same way both times. It was completely different.
All right, but
We asked him to be very blunt with us. Like, we want to know the details. We don't like things to be sugar coated. We're very blunt people. We like to be honest, and we don't feel like he has done that. There's quite a few things that we've asked him about specifically, and he doesn't talk about them, I guess, even when we ask. So he just kind of changes the subject. And so it's just like at a point now, it's almost actually what I honestly feel like is that I feel like he thinks that we're blaming him for my husband's positive margins, and we don't at all, and would never like that. That's how he comes off to us. So
wait,
more like defensive, I guess.
I'm getting a little confused.
Yes.
Are you talking about a radiation oncologist?
No, his surgeon. You asked why we weren't going back to UW.
No, I'm asking you. You said that you didn't like his radiation oncologist,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and I was trying to figure out why.
Yep. Well, okay. So he works with the surgeon, Dr. Gerard. They're on the same team, okay, at UW Madison. And when we met with him, he actually was we hadn't decided on a surgeon at Madison, and he was trying to talk us out of going with Dr. Gerard because he has a bad bedside manner. And we thought, for being his teammate, that kind of we didn't feel like that was okay at all, because this is a team we were going to be joining with them, and he didn't have very nice things to say about his teammate, I guess. So we just didn't feel comfortable with that. We also asked him, we wanted him to go over my husband's MRI and bone scans and stuff with us, and he said he didn't know how to read any of it. So he could not go over any of it with us.
Yeah, that's what a radiologist is for. So with prostate cancer, there are all these different specialists as you're learning, and one doesn't have any specific expertise in what another one is a specialist in. So asking, say, a doctor who's not a radiologist to read a scan would be inappropriate, because all they should be doing is reading the radiologist's report, which you can read as well. It's really up to the radiologist to give you that information. The radiation, I'm looking at names of radiation oncologists at University of Wisconsin. Who did you speak to? Did you talk to Mark Ritter?
No, it is. Oh, what is his name? This was October 3rd that we seen him. So trying to look back at my notes here.
Well, anyway, try Mark Ritter. I think he's the head of radiation oncology there. Definitely worth talking about. In fact, he's the one that really started the trend towards hypofractionated salvage radiation, which
Mm-hmm.
now really starting to take off. That started at the Carbone Center,
Mm-hmm.
which for you would mean that you can get the radiation treatments done in just 20 treatments instead of 40 treatments, which
Okay.
is a serious advantage for
Mm-hmm.
you. So for me, what you do with this kind of thing is you take it one step at a time. Right now, all you know is that there is cancer outside of the prostate capsule. Uh, you know, uh, you know for certain that there were positive margins, so you have every reason to believe that radiation is going to be able to take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, you should get a. Has he had an Axeman scan yet?
That's what his surgeon was scheduling at UW-Madison. We decided to go with the choline at Mayo. Either one we have to pay for out of pocket. Our insurance declined both of them. So
Okay, Axeman is better than C11 choline. So
yeah.
Mayo is pushing C11 choline because they put a huge investment into getting that stuff at
That's
Mayo.
kind of the thing though. We feel like through this whole we had 3 opinions before we decided on a surgeon, and everybody seems like a car salesman. It seems like everybody's trying to sell us their product. So it's really hard to go with who you finally feel comfortable with, you know.
Let me jump in here, and you're right, and this is one of the big reasons why I feel like you need a medical oncologist on your team right now. I know that Alan is saying to you, well, the next step is radiation oncology. It is. But a medical oncologist knows how to read the scans, and the medical oncologist will direct you. And most medical oncologists don't have an axe to grind with their treatment. Now, one of the big concerns I have about Mayo is they are pushing this C11, and it isn't state of the art. State of the art today are these PSMA scans, if you can get them. Usually you have to
He
try.
actually had one of those, a trial at UW, but of course we can't know of any of the information, and the surgeon doesn't either. It's all autonomous.
Well, I think that if you see a medical oncologist, and we've got a bunch of guys who have done PSMA trials, and they have seen the results of their trials on this call right now. I don't know the details of the trials. I don't know the details of the trial at Carbone, but let me give you 2 names of medical oncologists at Carbone that we have heard good things about.
Okay.
One is Dr. Long.
Okay.
And the other is Glenn Liu, Liu.
LONG and LIE.
LONG and LIU.
Okay. And they're both medical oncologists?
And they're both medical oncologists specializing in genitourinary, which includes the prostate.
Okay.
And we've got a bunch of people that want to talk to you, so I'm just going to shut up, and we are going to go over tonight. I'm just telling everybody. First of all, Russ Smith, who is in a similar situation to you, but a little bit ahead. So let me start with Russ. Then Peter wants to say something, and then we'll go from there. Russ, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Jess. I'm almost in the same boat that your husband's in. I had radical prostatectomy in February of 2019. PSA steadily rose for the next, the first one was okay, but the next 3 rose. And thanks to the people in this room, they convinced me to get a medical oncologist, which I did. My surgeon refused the referral to my medical oncologist. I went to Dr. Roberts and Dana-Farber in Boston, and now I'm on ADT, which is hormone therapy, and I'll start radiation at Dana-Farber on May 4th. So be proactive, be your own advocate, and listen to the people in this room, because I probably would have gone another 6 to 8 months before my surgeon would have suggested that I get a medical oncologist through your quarterback to get you through the process, because they've got nothing to gain or lose, where the surgeon has his or her reputation possibly to lose. But I don't blame my surgeon. I have the same margins. I'm 4+3 with a 5, with it's only seminal vessel invasion, but now it's in the soft tissue outside of that. So,
Did you have a scan?
What's that?
Did you have any kind of scan after surgery?
I've not had a PET scan, but I've had an MRI. I had an MRI a week ago, and it came back negative. So there's no mass big enough to see at this, other than the PSA is rising at least 0.1 in a month. So my time would be pretty aggressive still. Again, based on the advice in this group, I was proactive, went to the right place, saw the right people, and I'm on the right track to hopefully head this off before it gets too far. And ADT is no fun. It's a difficult time. I've had roller coasters. Each day is a different day for me. That the Casodex, I have side effects from that. I have side effects from the shots are pretty brutal, but it beats the hell out of not doing anything and having to do more major later on. So I'm still I guess I'm 6 weeks in now to ADT, and just had my second shot. It's a 3-month shot, and that was a more difficult time than the 1-month shot was fairly easy, but the 3-month shot kind of took me down a few days. But it seems like my body, I think I had my shot last Thursday of Lupron, and it was the 3-month dose, and it brought me down, and I'm just about coming out of it now. But there are side effects that you'll have to be prepared for, and don't blame your husband. Mood swings and up days and down days, and energy on one day and dead tired and naps.
Let me cut you off because I need to move. I know, Peter, you want to say something.
Yeah, I'm done.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you, Jen.
This is Peter Kopka. I live on Maui, Hawaii. I just want to say I'm sorry for your situation, but we're all going through this craziness. I've had 2 PSMA scans on trial. First one a couple of years ago at University of California, San Francisco. Last one was just before Christmas at Stanford University. I did not leave the facility without the scans in my hand. You are entitled to a copy of the actual discs, and then you go back a couple of days later to the records division and you say, I want the report from the radiologist, because that's yours as well. Nice. You don't have to wait until it goes to the doctor. You don't have to wait for a consult. This is not exclusive information. This is your stuff. Is your body, your scans. So I would just contact the records division of the place where you had it and demand that you have a copy of the scans in your hand and a copy of the report. I'm done.
So when they invited my husband to be a part of the trial, they told him that second it would be completely anonymous and his name would not be attached to anything. And then he also had to sign that he was okay with that.
That's true. That's true.
I never heard of that. Okay.
Clinical trials are done that way. There's nothing you could do about it.
Yep.
Both my scans were clinical trials, one at Stanford and one at
But
UCSF.
the clinical trials sometimes are set up that way,
Right.
that they're anonymous.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, didn't know that. Okay, I stand corrected.
That's okay.
That's what I said. Each clinical trial is different, but there are clinical trials. Peter's done one, Lenciera has done one at the NIH, and there are clinical trials that will reveal the results. But I'm not familiar with the trial that's going on at Wisconsin. But there is better technology, and the other thing with your insurance is that you can appeal to your insurance. In your husband's situation, you can and should be able to appeal to the insurance for a more detailed scan. But one other thing I do want to mention to you, Russ Smith did not tell you that he is also in his 50s. He is, and we do have a group for men under 60 with advanced prostate cancer, and that's going to meet on Thursday, right, Ken Anderson?
Yeah, Rick, I also wanted to state, to reiterate your fact, that Paul Korn actually said, if you get turned down, these better places have the ability to structure a letter that your insurance company will, he said he'd get it passed, no problem, and he said he would write the letter. So I would say definitely go after, getting the Axiom scan. It doesn't have to be a PMSA, but I would shoot for the Axiom scan for sure.
Axiom. So
Axiom.
Korn is at MD Anderson, but Carbone is a great center, and they should have the people there that should be able to pursue it. But I just think you've got to, sadly, you're probably going to need a medical oncologist on your team. The earlier you bring him in, as Russ Smith has found out, the better you're going to be. Let him marshal you around the facility. I don't want to leave the topic without giving Les Shelderup a chance to tell you about his very positive experience with Jean Kwan.
Okay.
Les, go ahead.
Okay, all I have to say is, I've been I was originally diagnosed on Gleason 10. I was originally given less than 2 years to live, and that was over 7 years ago. I've been seeing Dr. Kwan, and he's been keeping me on the green side of the sod for a lot longer than they had anticipated. So it's difficult for me to argue with success.
Right.
I hear what's being said, but it's really hard for me to argue with success. He's gotten me through so far.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it.
Yeah, David Heinem, you're mute. There you go. Please go ahead.
Hi, Jess. My name's Dave. I'm not too far behind your husband. I was diagnosed last year too, and I'll just let you know that you're doing the right thing, obviously, by attending the calls. My experience, just to probably iterate upon the others, is that I'm out in Seattle. I originally grew up in Minnesota, so hi from Minnesota. But you have to be your own advocate. Feel free to talk to the doctors, and I have not had one doctor, oncologist, surgeon ever fret when I told them I'm going to get a second opinion, and they should be perfectly fine with that. But absolutely be your own advocate and talk to at least two people in the same, profession, medical oncologist, et cetera. But you're doing the absolute right thing, and it can be frustrating, trust me, after a year of this, but you will find the right people.
Thank you for that.
I think that's great advice, and I would, if I was in your shoes, I would proceed with Quan, but I wouldn't commit to Quan. I would also want to see a GU medical oncologist either at Carbone or in Chicago or in Minneapolis.
Okay.
Obviously, Carbone is the closest to you. But we can refer you to some fantastic GU med oncs. One in Minneapolis, the University of Minnesota, Chuck Ryan, who I know personally and have done for many, many years, and several other good docs in Chicago at either Northwestern or University of Chicago. There's one woman that we love at Northwestern. But don't run into one doc. It's really important at this juncture that you find the right doc, and probably to start some treatment, which is going to be androgen deprivation therapy sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
So, Jed, we've got to keep moving here, and what I would ask you is please make sure we have your email so that we can let you know when our meetings are.
Yeah.
You can, like I said, send it to info@ancan.org. If you're on the web, you can put it in the chat window directly to me. You can give it me over the phone. We've got a meeting on Thursday night this week for the men under 60 that your husband is very welcome to join.
Is that also at 8?
It's also at 8, but they don't have caregivers in there. We do, but they don't. It's just the guys some of the guys who are on this call will be there. Ken Anderson runs it.
Okay, I'll let him know.
It's because these younger guys have different issues. I don't have to tell you that. We would love to have you back on this call, every week until we get you sorted. So
I appreciate that.
And I think, you've heard different sides of the coin, so you're probably just as frustrated with us as you are with all the doctors.
I just try to get all of the information I can and put together what feels good in my gut for my husband, honestly, is what I do. So.
Okay, well, keep talking to us. And if you need to talk to us one-on-one, we can figure that how to do that as well. But, and do you, are you on the computer or are you on the telephone, Jess?
Right now I'm on the phone.
Okay. Alan just put a link, but he put it in the chat window, so you cannot see that. We'll post it later on. And all right. I think there was one other gentleman, but he might have left. Dave in Cleveland, are you still with us? I think not. I think Dave in Cleveland left after he told us about how he was so empathetic with all the ladies. Okay. There's a lot of people that have questions. We'll try and get through as many of you as we can. Peter, let me start with you because I know you've got something that's burning a hole in your pocket there.
Okay, Mike, what I feared has come upon me. I've got 2 med-oncs working with me on chemo. Dr. Turner in LA, who's my go-to guy, and my local guy here, Dr. Okazaki. And I've met with both of them on the phone within the last week and a half or so. My next treatment, the halfway point number 3, is coming up Thursday. I just did my blood work this morning and I have the results now in hand. So the issue is Procrit. Procrit, and I wonder if anybody has experience with this. Dr. Turner looked at my blood work from the last time 3 weeks ago and said, I would put you on Procrit because your hemoglobin is down in the low 9s, and you need a boost. And this is not the atmosphere and time to start thinking about blood transfusions with coronavirus going around, because I don't think they check for it. They don't screen for it. Anyway, and I think that's why. So when I met with on the phone with my local guy, I brought this up, and he said, no, I used to do Procrit, but we don't do it anymore because it's been found it can stimulate cancer growth. So I went back to Turner on email with that, and he wrote me back and said, I don't agree. And he quoted, he sent me a text with an email with the current literature on it, which essentially says that that's true with some cancers, but when you're dealing with prostate cancer and chemotherapy, and the chemotherapy intent is not curative, then Procrit is recommended, unless you go with transfusions. So tomorrow morning, so I sent that off to the local guy. So I'm the go-between. I'm the mediator, the guy in between, because I can't get the local guy to talk to Turner. Anyway, so I'm going to get on tomorrow morning, but I just wondered if anybody has had experience with Procrit, which is a stimulation of the marrow for producing red blood cells, so that you don't have to do transfusions if you start going below 9, and I'm down at the 9.2 level for hemoglobin.
Has anybody had experience with Procrit on the call?
May I ask a question?
Sure.
How are your platelets and your immune cells doing?
I do, my white is pretty high because I'm taking Neulasta, so that's
Okay.
higher than it's ever been. It's just the red right now that I'm dealing with. Platelet count is pretty good. Platelets are 200, which is okay. It's within the range.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
I can't think of a good reason not to take it. I mean, alternatively, you can go up on Mount Kilauea and get your red blood cell count up there at altitude and then come down. But it's a lot easier just to take a shot.
That's what I'm thinking. But anyway, so I mean, it's one of the one of the things that I knew would probably come up, where you get two different medoncs kind of having two different opinions. But you got to, back to the standard. You got to be your own best advocate.
but what Peter was showing you was the back of his shirt. We didn't quite see it, but the back of our ANCAN shirts, which will soon be available to everybody, says, "You're your best advocate. You are your best advocate." Now, Peter, first of all, does anybody else want to say anything about Procrit? Len, do you have any comments on Procrit?
Well, Peter and I have already spoken at length about it. Peter, I'm just wondering, does your local oncologist absolutely refuse to give you the injection?
No, I don't think he refuses, and I haven't talked to him since I emailed or since I faxed over this email of Dr. Turner's. So the way I left it and the way we left it is, we'll see what the results of the blood test is today, and I'll talk to his nurse tomorrow morning. I'll get on the phone and see if I can push for a shot on Thursday when I do my chemo.
Well, although I was probably the first one to alert you to the possibility that it stimulates cancer growth, I guess I would go with Turner, since he knows more about prostate cancer, probably has more experience with Procrit than your local guy. That's what I would do. On the other hand, if you're really not feeling exhausted, if you think you can stand another drop down to 8 on your hemoglobin, maybe you could wait.
Yeah, that's another possibility too. I've thought about that. I'm still walking 3 miles a day, and I'm starting to take a nap a little bit after a walk. But other than that, I'm feeling pretty strong, pretty good. It's not terrible.
Didn't Lance Armstrong take that?
Sorry?
Didn't Lance Armstrong take that? I mean, and he had cancer.
Yes, that's true. He was taking it as a performance enhancement.
Yeah.
And he got testicular cancer. Which came first, I don't know, but that's an interesting point.
I've known guys who have actually had their own supplies of Procrit, and they've been able, and they've taken it themselves. But I think my position, I think, is fairly clear. Turner's your quarterback, you're the patient, and you've done your research, and you want it. And if he makes you sign a waiver or whatever, he makes you sign a waiver. But he knew going in that Turner was your quarterback. You made it very clear to him.
Right. And if we weren't dealing with coronavirus, I might be open to transfusion if I had to go down into the 8s. But I don't want to go near a blood transfusion right now. It's just too spooky to me.
Right. All right. Can we move on? Anybody else want to say anything before we move on? Okay, I think you got to be your best advocate here, Peter. And you're educated and you do it very well for other people, so you have to do it for yourself this time. Alan Moskowitz, what's on your mind tonight?
Yeah, hi. I might need some advice in terms of next steps. When I spoke a number of weeks ago, maybe a month or a little over a month ago, I'm in this situation. I had quick background. I had prostatectomy in 2013, and I had recurrence. And so I had a little bit of ADT along with radiation in 2016. And at some point, the PSA started to trickle up again. So I had a PSMA scan at NIH when I had PSA of 0.5. And basically, they found nothing. And that was in November of 2018. Last year, that was April of 2018. Last year in November, I had an Axeman scan at PSA 2, and they found nothing. And then last month, I had a PSMA scan at Sloan Kettering at PSA 2.3, and they found nothing. And so my oncologist said, look, he said, your PSA is not going up that fast. The doubling time has increased to roughly 11 or 12 months. It was 9 or 10. Now it's 11 and 12. He said, look, I'll see you on September. He says, we can talk further. He says, but right now you really don't need any treatment. Now, when I had the scan in March, I did get to speak to another doctor there, just sort of by happenstance, because they needed a doctor to go over the consent forms with me. And I talked to a doctor, I think her name is Susan Slobin. And even though she was my doctor, I sort of briefed her on everything. And she said, look, I have a lot of patients like you, and she doesn't follow necessarily a mainstream approach. She said, but in my case, she said she'd probably put me on bicalutamide at some point in time, probably not before PSA of 10. And she had, as long as doubling time didn't change too much for the worse, and sometimes even PSA higher than that. And so we talked about that briefly, and I said, basically, good, thank you very much. She said, look, don't worry. She said, if you get a negative result from the scan, she said, consider that as good news. And when I talked to my own doctor, oncologist there about the scan results, he said, yeah, you probably have some micrometastasis. Whatever you have is very small and is not discernible on the scan. They said, just don't worry about it for now. So that's my situation. And so the question is, at some point, and I don't know what that point is, can I really wait to PSA 4 or 5 or even higher than that before I did ADT? I'm not eager to do ADT only because you have, some side effects. Particularly, I worry about cardiac events and things like that. I tolerated it fine for 6 months, but frankly, if I can hold off longer, I will. I'm just wondering about people's thoughts on that. Whether or not this bicalutamide is a monotherapy, which they do, I guess, in Europe more and maybe elsewhere, which is not common here. I want to know about that. I know about the gynecomastia, and she said she doesn't have much issue with that and all, and she wouldn't use tamoxifen. She said that's a dangerous drug, and she doesn't think that's worth doing. So that's what happened.
Let's ask the question. I think most of us are pretty familiar with the options. Some of us are familiar with Slovin, and I think there are probably more options that are out there. The first question that I have, I'll throw it out to anybody, is when would you resume on some type of hormone therapy with recurrent disease?
Alan, what was your Gleason score?
4 + 3.
4 + 3.
Right, and my PSA initially was never higher than 4.3 before surgery.
I can chime in if you like, because it's about the same as me. And I started back at point 0.9. And I'm on the ADT and radiation to come in the next few weeks.
I can tell you, Alan, the first time I went on intermittent hormone therapy, my oncologist at Sloan Kettering let it ride all the way from 0.2 to 10.9.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a little uncomfortable at that level, and I'm a Gleason 9 too. So, I think it all comes down to just, are you comfortable watching your PSA rise? You have an intermediate risk, let's say unfavorable intermediate risk, Gleason pattern, relatively slow doubling time. I think you could afford to let it ride up at least to 4 or 5 when you can definitely, with the newer scans, you should definitely be picking up something.
Yeah, that was my hope at doing it so far 3 times. I don't necessarily want to keep doing those scans. I don't know what the risk is, and I don't know about the CAT scan with that sort of an X-ray. I just
PSMA that you did 1219 that showed nothing as well. Did you say?
Yeah, Axamin, nothing.
Well,
I thought
you did the Axamin, and you said you were going to do another PSMA scan.
Yeah. When we talked about it, I said, people said, you could do another one and rather than do nothing. And that's what I did. I was able to get in very easily at Sloan Kettering.
So did you do a second PSMA scan in December of 19?
No, I did a Axamin in November of 19, and I did the PSMA in March of this year.
Okay, so I have a record that you were going to do another PSMA after the Axamin, but you didn't do that.
But I did.
Hold on a second. You did a PSMA. You did an Axamin scan in November, and it showed
right.
nothing.
And I did a PSMA in March last month. So I have had 3 scans. I've had NIH, a PSMA. I've had Axeman in 2019, and I had the PSMA last month, March 2020.
So that's what I'm saying. So you did do another PSMA and that showed nothing. Who
Yep.
else? Who else had some feedback as to when to pick up? Alan, you must have some thoughts on this.
I have thoughts, but I don't have a conclusion. My thoughts are that I agree that it's micrometastatic. There's obviously something circulating there or in tissue reservoirs somewhere. It's too small right now to see on any scan, and that's understand that for a scan to pick it up, it's got to be at least 4 millimeters in one of its lengths to
Right.
see it. So it could be that you have it there, but it's just too small, which what one guy I know is doing is he's taking bicalutamide 50 milligrams twice a week. And that's keeping his PSA undetectable. It's like a minimal amount of bicalutamide. He is taking it with tamoxifen. Actually, he changed from tamoxifen to raloxifene because he wanted to keep his testosterone higher, and raloxifene did that, whereas tamoxifen brought his testosterone down. But either way, I don't share Dr. Slovin's concern about tamoxifen. I think it's a great, safe drug that's been used for 30 years or so in breast cancer. And it's only 10 milligrams a day that you would take. It's a very low dose. So I don't share those concerns, and it works much better than the alternative, which is radiation to the chest. One thing to consider is intermittent bicalutamide with tamoxifen, and see what that does for your PSA.
So, Alan, why do you feel that it works that much better than a single shot of radiation to the chest?
Because there have been studies comparing the two.
Okay. I mean, one thing I have heard, I may be wrong, is that the risk of the radiation to the chest is not very high at all.
No, it is.
But you're saying that it isn't as effective in controlling the gynecomastia as the tamoxifen.
Correct.
Yeah, I've read those studies also, Rick. That's true. Tamoxifen is better than radiation for preventing gynecomastia.
I mean, I think if it were me, I probably would start with the radiation to the chest because it's so simple. And if it didn't work, then I would revert to the tamoxifen. I mean, why take another drug? And I know that a lot of the women who take tamoxifen do have side effects from it. A lot don't, but some do.
Their side effects are endometriosis, which is not really a side effect men would get.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about other side effects. I'm talking about hormonal side effects that they complain of, and skin issues, different things. I mean, I've known women on tamoxifen who couldn't handle it and they had to get off of it. But for me, if you can do it with just one shot of radiation and it works for you, great. If it doesn't work for you, then you have to look at the backup.
Right. All right.
So anybody else? I still want to, I think Carl left us. I know I do want to touch base with David Muslin. Anybody else have any more insight for Alan on when to intervene? Anybody else who's faced this problem of when to intervene?
Is there any, I mean, one could, of course, I could do another PSMA down the road if I chose to. You know, again, I was still hoping to find a spot that could be treated and then hold off ADT for as long as I could. That was my rationale. But I sort of think there's a point of perhaps diminishing returns, and that, you know, eventually if I keep waiting, yeah, then I'm going to find something. But by then, maybe I'm taking what I'll call a foolish risk in waiting so long, you know, and sort of my dilemma.
Yeah, no, I hear. Is Slovin, do you consider Slovin to be your main GU med-onc, or who is your main GU med-onc at this point?
No, so it's a good question. No, she's not my main person. I only talked to her this one time, just by happenstances, that she was the doctor who had to go through the consent forms with me, and she didn't expect that I'd be grilling her for 20 minutes. I figured she might charge me money, so I want to get my money's worth. I used Dr. Tran there, and he's okay. He actually trained to some extent under Dr. Slovin. But my real plan actually is probably to switch out of Sloan Kettering and continue to see Dr. O at Mount Sinai. I saw him before my in 2018. And I'm probably going to go back to him, and because I just think he knows a lot more, and get some guidance from him, and then I'll decide. But that's my plan. This is an important decision point. Well, it's not an immediate decision point. I think it's a very important one. So I'll take his opinion, and maybe I need to see someone else as well. There was a name someone gave me. I don't have it in front of me, from New York Presbyterian. There was someone there, I think, who's a hot shot.
Charles Drake.
Paul Drake?
Drake, D-R-A-K-E. Charles Drake.
Charles Drake, okay.
But let me just say, for you, to keep it simple, I personally don't think you can go wrong with Dr. O. He's got a great bedside manner, as Len will attest. Everybody we've ever sent him likes him. He's smart. I am personally not a big fan of Slovin. I've seen her present several times, and she just seems very cold. She's very knowledgeable. But, you know, I think that the idea of having Dr. O is probably a good one. Alan, you just posted a reference. What is that to? What study is that to?
That's the randomized clinical trial between breast radiation and tamoxifen.
Thank you. All right. Well, you know, Len is the maven on Dr. O, and he started.
Yes, I know.
He started at Sloan Kettering and switched over there. And Len, I think you've been very happy since then, right?
Absolutely. I love Dr. O. I think he's fantastic. He'll certainly give you your money's worth, Alan. Yeah. Every session I have with him is at least a half hour long.
Right. Good. Yeah, right. I think that's my plan, and well, I'll let you know what happens.
Okay, so we'll keep moving here. I think Carl Foreman, have you gone? Yes, Carl Foreman has gone. David Muslin, you wanted to say something, and who else also wanted to speak up tonight that we haven't visited with yet? Other than David Muslin, is there anyone else other than David Muslin that we should visit with tonight?
Rick, Joe Blanchette here. You can skip over me. I just had 1 minute update, but I don't need to do it tonight. I can do it next week.
So let's go to David Muslin, and I bet you want to ask us about hot flashes. You're muted. You'll have to say it again. Unmute.
Okay, hi guys. Thank you, Rick. Just a quick check-in. I've been on Lupron for 7 weeks, and I just had my blood work done yesterday, and I just kind of wanted to run past what my blood work is. PSA is down to 0.3.
That's good. Great.
From 1.4. For some reason, they didn't check my testosterone. I had the blood work done down here in Florida, and as you know, my docs are up in Chicago.
Yeah.
But I've been, and it's funny. I don't know. I hear about these big mood swings and guys having really hard time. I've been doing okay. I never got on any meds, Rick. Even though I remember exactly what you told me. I've been working out and staying strong, and I'm okay. So I guess I'm just lucky in that respect. Is that the situation?
Well, I think what happens, and other guys can talk for themselves. I know it happened to me, and I know it's happened to other guys, is that the depression comes in waves.
Yeah.
And you feel great, and then, God forbid, 2 days from now, all of a sudden there'll be a black cloud, and the old black dog will be visiting you, and you'll feel rotten again. And you can control it with exercise. And if you don't need to go on the meds and you can balance yourself, I think you're great. Yeah. But don't be scared of the meds. And don't let that cloud come down to a point where it immobilizes you again.
Right.
Because it can do that. You remember.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Anyone else want to add to this issue of managing these mood swings on ADT?
Yeah, I can just chime in because we're about the same point. 4.3 had radical prostatectomy a year ago, and I'm dealing with the same thing you are, the hot flashes and ups and downs, and I think the more we get into it, the better it's going to be. But right now, it's not fun, but it beats the other option.
Right. The only other thing I struggle with is at night. The hot flashes are worse at nighttime, and they wake me up at night. Covers on, covers off, sweating, and that's just the way it is.
I get up, go to the bathroom, and cool off, and get back in bed.
Yeah.
David Minchin here.
Welcome to our new life.
Yeah. Hold on a second, David Chincham, please speak up.
Just a quick one on the hot flushes. I mean, I've been at this now for 8 years. I had them pretty severely for about 4 or 5 years. I doubt that I've had one in the last 2. So if you can hang on long enough, they go away.
One thing that you can do, and there has been some evidence, and probably Alan will know exactly where to find the trials, but there have been trials, is that acupuncture can help. So, sorry, Alan?
Definitely. Can I raise a COVID-19 positive thing about ADT? One is that you may have already discussed this, that ADT is an immune stimulant. So it may be, there are no clinical trials, and I'm just guessing, it may be protective against COVID-19. Also, hot flashes. Right now, doctors are telling their COVID-19 patients to not take aspirin or ibuprofen, any antipyretics, because raising body temperature is the natural way to stimulate the immune system. So right now, you may have a benefit in having hot flashes.
Thank you, Alan.
Hey, Alan, this is Jim Ward. I guess I wanted to ask you to maybe clarify a comment you made that the ADT is a immuno-stimulant, because I guess I always thought that what it was doing is, to some extent, it was suppressing your immune system, because I mean, I get my blood work and I see where the white blood count's kind of low, and maybe that's not a function of ADT, but that's what I've always believed, and
Right.
so
That's
I'm confused by that.
There are two things going on. One is the cancer, and the other is the ADT. The ADT is an immune stimulant. The cancer, though, is trying to knock out your immune system. So, both things can happen. It's not because of the ADT that your white blood cell count is low.
Okay, all right, I think that makes sense. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
So just to get back to these hot flashes, look into acupuncture. I suffered horribly from hot flashes, and I had horrible sleep. And for every time you wake up, your sleep is probably disturbed at least 2 more times by hot flashes, and you don't wake up. But it bothers your sleep, but you're not aware of it. And that's why you when you do finally wake up in the morning, you feel like a Mack truck hit you, because your sleep has been so interrupted. One guy swears by drinking a glass of ice cold water, except I don't know how you do that in the middle of the night. I haven't figured that one out yet. Maybe you keep a jug of ice cold water, a thermos jug of ice cold water. There are some medications, but they're controversial. Depo-provera and Megace. I can send you papers that have been written, not by me, on those. But again, I would probably start with something like acupuncture, because if it works for you, it's very benign. You're not putting another drug in your body.
That sounds like a good advice. But I also have my Yeti, and it does keep ice cold water overnight.
Oh, okay. Well,
no advertisement for Yeti, but
Does it help you with the hot flashes, Ross?
I still get them at night. But like I say, when I get them, it's maybe 2 or 3 at night, and I'll get up, go to the bathroom, cool off, and come back, and I go right back to sleep.
It has nothing to do with sipping that ice water at night?
I think it helps. I think it helps to cool your body down. That's why I get up and I go to the bathroom, whether I need to or not, because it's naturally going to cool my body down. And then luckily I can go right back to bed and go to sleep within minutes.
Cool.
I would keep a Yeti type glass next to the bed.
Got it.
David, something else you could do that I do, actually, I was going to ask a question. I might as well ask it. I just had to change from Zometa for my bone metastasis to Xgeva, and it took me 7 weeks after that first shot of Xgeva and Lupron to kind of calm down my hot flashes. But what I use is I use handheld fans. They're not expensive, and they work beautifully for me. I just have them by my bed, and I can feel hot flash coming on, and I take those fans, and it cools me off, and I roll over and go back to sleep.
I'm sorry, was it handheld what?
Fan.
Fan.
Handheld
FAN.
fans. So Rick, do you know why the Xgeva would cause me to have more serious hot flashes after a year of Zometa? Or Len or Dave?
I really don't. I mean, Len or Alan, do you have any idea? I mean,
No, I've never heard that.
I haven't either. I've had a few Xgeva shots, and I never had any hot flashes.
Yeah, the literature says that Xgeva does not enhance or cause hot flashes. But that's the only thing I can think of, because I wasn't having very serious hot flashes at all up until this the beginning of let's see, March. The first week in March was when I had my first 3-month shot of Lupron in Tucson, and the urology oncologist there they don't do infusions. So he put me on Xgeva. And that was the only thing that's different. So I don't know.
I really don't. Again, we're not docs, but I don't think it's related to the Xgeva. I'd be very surprised if it were related to the Xgeva, Jerry.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
Alan Adele just posted a link about acupuncture for hot flashes. Very effective, apparently.
let me just ask you, what ADT are you on? Is it you're getting Lupron, right, Jerry?
Oh yeah, Lupron.
And did you change the period, or did you change the dose, the Lupron dose? Did you go like from a 90 to a 120, or from a 120 to something less?
No. It's the same routine.
And you were getting them on time, so you didn't have a problem with your schedule on the Lupron?
No, not at all. So I don't know. But anyway, you can try those hand fans. They work great for me.
Okay. All right. Carl Fullman just came back on. He had a question. Carl, hit us with your question. You got 5 minutes. We're closing down in 5 minutes.
Oh boy. Okay. With many thanks to the group and for Rick and Len, I had some guidance as to the type of scan that I should have and should request. I did have a follow-up Aximum PET scan a week and a half ago, awaiting the results. And I actually got the report this morning, aside from the doctor who just sent a very quick email back to me saying that resolution of initial disease. And when I looked at the report itself, it shows really no evidence of any lesions. It shows healing in most areas. I see nothing negative in this report. So thanks to olaparib and Eligard and Xgeva, and it's a pretty good report. Now, of course, my thought was, okay, well, Aximum, we were talking about the right kind of scan, and it seemed the most likely one to have since I had one a year ago. So there was a viable comparison between the first and the most recent one. And my thought process, and then not to, as they say, not to look a gift horse in the mouth, but whether it is a truly good report, quite honestly. I think it is, but you know, I know we talked briefly about PSMA, how much more accurate that is versus the Aximum, but at this point, it definitely appears I'm in the right direction.
Wow. I mean, that is terrific news. When you were diagnosed back in June of 18 or around then, where was the metastasis that they saw? In your pelvis, right?
Yes, pelvic bone.
And did they see any lymph nodes then or not?
The lymph nodes were found as a result of the robotic surgery, where they found 2 out of 27 lymph nodes positive.
Okay.
But
well, you know, I mean, I'm really happy really happy. I mean, you know, this is, you've been on a lot of interesting treatments, and it looks like the PARP inhibitor is handling the cancer for you right now.
Right, and to whatever extent the Provenge treatment that I also had as well, I'm sure it must have helped.
Who would like to comment to Carl? Who has something they would like to say to Carl on this, other
The
than
only thing I
myself?
can say is congratulations, Carl. It's great news.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it
Peter,
says without evidence of metastasis in many areas, healed metastases in other areas, so looks good.
So, you know, it sounds though, and I think the big question is, you got to keep doing what you're doing. You know, we never know with this disease, and as long as the PARP inhibitor isn't inhibiting your blood counts, you know, obviously you got to stick with it, and you got to stick with the Eligard. Who knows whether you'd be a candidate for intermittent hormone therapy or not? That's a real tough one. You didn't
Right,
ask?
and that was you were reading my mind. That was
I don't know. I mean, I think the guy to ask would have to be somebody like your man Drake. I think he would be the go-to guy, or not Drake. You see Mark. Mark Stein. I think, you know, and see what he and Drake think. At what point might you be eligible? Does anybody on the call have any thoughts on a man with BRCA2 disease and metastasis, not showing? You know what? Stay on the drugs? Do you not stay on the drugs? How would you handle that?
How many metastases did you say were ever found?
5.
But that includes the ones that were found surgically, right?
Yeah, well, no, it's probably a little higher. It might be 7, including this. I mean, there were 2 that were found in the lymph nodes. That prior to that, there was a number of 5.
In Maha Hussein's big randomized clinical trial of intermittent versus continuous, it seemed like if there was a low metastatic burden, you could, continuous was actually better than intermittent. It's kind of the reverse of what you might expect. So, but with a higher burden, like 5 metastases, you may be able to get away with intermittent.
Did you want to say something, Peter?
Yeah, Carl, it warms my heart to hear you say this. You know my buddy who's Jim St. James has been on a call a number of times, also a bracket guy. He never was able to get access to olaparib, and he is now in his final weeks of hospice. He's the opposite. I mean, his bracket just within 2 years went from one metastasis on his spine to this rampant. And I think you're a great example of someone who's taken the thing in your own hands and sought the best treatment you possibly could, and you got some mileage out of this, which is wonderful. So I salute you. I think it's wonderful news to bring this to us, and I hope other people like myself with a BRCA mutation have take this to heart, because I know olaparib is going to be in my future too when I'm done with chemo.
Thank you.
Okay, but yeah, I talk to you guys obviously at the New Jersey Institute, but definitely talk with Drake and Stein about how good a candidate they think you might be for a holiday.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to push it too fast. I mean, as the results are good at this point.
Well, I'm happy for you. I'm happy for Arlene, and we never know with this disease. You're going to be living with it for the rest of your life, but hopefully you can manage it in a way that makes the rest of your life very comfortable, Carl. That's what we all hope for.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to Professor Bill. Thanks to Professor Bill as well. God bless. Rest in peace.
Yeah, we all think of Professor Bill. Here you go. That's my Professor Bill photograph that I keep by the side of my desk. Okay. Well, it's 20 after. I'm sorry that we ran a little late. I'm sorry that some guys had to leave. But we had a big group again today, and we'll be back again next Tuesday. There is definitely a under 60 group on Thursday night. Oh, and one other thing. We're starting a blood cancer group on Wednesday. So if you know anybody with any type of blood cancer, please send them to the group. We've got some very good moderators. I'll be in the behind the scenes helping them. But we're excited to offer a blood cancer group, and we need to get the word, spread the word. All right. If I didn't get to anybody, please feel free to email me, and we'll take care of whatever we missed. But we'll be back again next Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern.
Excuse me, you're saying Tuesday. I'm thinking it's Eastern Coast Time America, 8 p.m. Monday, because it's Tuesday here in Australia, but the next meeting on Monday night your time or Tuesday?
No, well, so let me clarify. I'm so sorry, David. I forgot that I had an Aussie on. Let me tell you when our meetings are. Our meetings are the first and third Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern. Okay, and
I got that.
And the second and fourth Tuesdays at 6 o'clock Eastern. So our Tuesday meetings will be on Wednesday morning for you.
And the difference is?
No difference. They're all the same. They're just like what you heard today. There's no difference in the meeting. Okay. All right.
Thanks for that.
It's just that we run them at different times because many years ago the guys on the East Coast complained that we kept them up too late and they wanted an earlier meeting. And we're
I
keeping
can't
Jay
tell
Mills
the
out your
smell.
way right now, I can see.
I'd like to make a clarification on the blood cancers group. That's in the Schmear room. So
Yes.
that has a different address.
Yeah. Yeah. If you refer anybody, send them to our website and all the information is there. We that is in a different meeting room. All right. Last call. Good night.
Good night.
Happy,
Good night.
everybody.
Thank you.
Stay well.
Right, everyone.
Bye-bye.